Morning, folks. Caleb Booker here with another free psychic reading, this time for April. Hi, April. April asked a very important question as a follow-up to the last video, which was, as an empath, how do I know if I'm not just delusional, if I'm not kidding myself, if I'm not crazy? How do you know that? It's a very important question. And I think, April, just by asking that question, you've embarked on the right path already. I want you to hold on to that question and never let it go. Ever. And I know it would be comfortable to say, gee, April, you're not crazy. But I'm not going to do that. In fact, I'm going to tell you that if you're ever tempted to think that you're absolutely correct about something, try to grope for that uncertainty again. That doesn't sound like the kind of thing that's going to sell well. If I was trying to sell you something, I would sell you comfort. And I would say, oh no, don't worry, trust your instincts, trust your heart, listen to your inner voice, and it'll all be okay. That's what sells. If I had a course to sell right now, that's what I would do. But I'm not selling anything. And so instead, what I want you to do is actually become an effective empath. If you're going to become an effective empath, April, which I believe you have the ability to do, you need to cling to ambiguity. Ambiguity is critical to all spiritual and psychic work. You need to really find ambiguity, this notion of not knowing one way or the other, and use it as a way of checking yourself constantly. Here's what we're going to do. Right now, somebody will walk in a room and you'll get a sense of emotion from them. You'll get a sense of feeling from them. And you won't be sure if that's just you imagining things or if that's really their emotion. So go ask them. And just pay attention to how right and how wrong you were. Don't take notes, don't judge. Just repeat this process the next time somebody else walks in a room. Again and again and again. Pay attention to your environment, get a sense for how they feel, and then don't tell them what you're thinking. Just ask them, how do you feel today? What are you thinking about today? What's on your mind? You know, I hear you saying that nothing's bothering you and you're fine, but I don't know, I get the feeling that, even if there's something going on that you want to get across, then dig a little bit. See if there's something under the surface. Now, sometimes people will just straight up lie and you're going to have to deal with a little percentage of bad data. But over time, you'll start noticing when people give you the answer that the little part of your head that was wrong sincerely was your stuff. You were projecting. You had an emotion that had everything to do with you and nothing to do with them. And so you sort of were putting it on them. And that's a very human, normal thing everybody does. And then a certain percentage of the time, you will have correctly interpreted things. Now, what starts happening when you get good at this is you start telling yourself, I just read their body language. I was just looking at their face and I saw like micro expressions. All that ambiguity, cling to it. Hold on to it. Start saying to yourself, yeah, I'm probably just faking it. Well, okay, next time somebody walks in the room, even if they show me nothing, I'm going to try and get a sense. And challenge yourself to do it again and again and again. The reason I'm so encouraging on ambiguity, this idea that you should constantly question the validity of your own instincts, I think it's very powerful because in spiritual circles, people tend to just start buying everything they say. You get to a certain point in spiritual circles where people just accept that, hey, this is what I felt, so it's true. It's my truth. You hear that? I'm speaking my truth. But when it comes to sensing the emotions of others, your truth doesn't count. And you really need to constantly pull yourself back and find humility. This is where humility lies. Humility is in realizing that there's a world outside of you. So, even me, even in my practice as a professional psychic, which is still weird for me to say, I gotta be honest. But even so, when people will sit down and I'll talk to them straight up about the future and I'll see it all, it's all spelled out in black and white. I still have to regularly remind people that I might be nuts, that this might all be just extrapolation on something I'm not consciously aware of, and that it's for entertainment purposes only. And that's very important, very powerful. People should be always allowed to have their own ideas of what's going on in their life. You're not God, you never will be. Well, not in this life. And yeah, I know, popular New Age philosophy is to start talking about yourself like you are God. Very destructive thinking, not helpful at all. I mean, it feeds the ego, it sells books like crazy, but let's not go there. If you want to actually get good at this, humility, my friend, humility. And that comes in just always saying, oh, that's what I'm getting, that's what we'll work with, this is working, this is useful, but it's possible I'm nuts. And just never letting that go. In the short term, that's really uncomfortable. In the short term, you want comfort. You want this reminder that, hey, you know, these feelings are real, these things are valid. You get that by asking people straight up, how are you feeling? That's where you get it. And for someone who's sensitive and introverted, it's hard to talk to strangers, but you're just gonna have to start doing it. We're servants. We're servants. And that means we need to connect with people to serve them. So that's the way it is. In the long term, the discomfort will come in constantly pulling yourself back from the total ego high of thinking you know everything. And believe me, it is just a plague in spiritual circles that you've got to fight. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think we covered it, April. But if you have further questions along these lines, get in touch with me through email or just leave a comment. Anybody else who has a question about themselves, about their lives, you know, it doesn't have to be about something spiritual. Ask me about your career. Ask me about your family's health. Ask me about whether you're moving or whether somebody's going to date you again, which is the most common question, and that's totally fine. It's an important question. That's why it's so common. So ask, leave a comment, ask the question, and maybe I'll be able to make a video for you. Apart from that, join us on Facebook at The Psychic Village. See you later, guys.